Well, welcome once again. This is the Doctor of Digital podcast. The purpose of the show is to transform your business and life with education and inspiration. I introduce busy business leaders to trends in business, technology, and marketing to highlight people you should know. Do you know you can imagine a world in which your content isn't just informative, it's magnetic? Writing services that weave data driven SEO with psychological intrigue, crafting content that not only ranks high but compels clicks like a captivating whisper. Content marketing that evolves beyond awareness, nurturing leads with an emotional journey tailored to their deepest desires. SEO strategies that go beyond keyword stuffing and anticipating user intent and crafting narratives that leave them wanting more. This isn't a fantasy, it's the future of digital marketing, where content isn't king, it's the key to unlocking their hearts, minds, and wallets of your target audience. My guest is an expert in writing services, providing content marketing and SEO strategy. She is the author of the book Content Marketing Made Easy, and with her background in English and psychology, this was the perfect preparation for content marketing. As well as with her theater experience, she was well prepared to be a public speaker. During this episode, we'll do a deep dive into the changes and hot topics of a successful marketing company. We will leverage the expertise of my guest and how to navigate the unique dynamics of the field. By the end of this episode, you'll be better equipped to know what to do, and I encourage you to contact my guest, Alison Ver Halen, founder and CEO of AV Writing Services, LLC. And with that, I want to welcome Alison to the show. How are you today?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. It's my pleasure. We'd love to know a little bit more about your background, and perhaps you can give us a pivotal story to say, how did you get into this field in the first place?
Yeah, I completely fell into it. So, like you said, I did major in English and psychology, which turned out to be the perfect degree for what I'm doing now. Had no
Sure.
clue this was an option. Thought I wanted to work in publishing. Graduated in 2009, right after the job market crashed. So, that wasn't going to happen. So, I ended up answering phones for a few years, found myself between jobs at one point, and my roommate at the time, her dad, who was an attorney, was awesome and offered to give me stuff to do around his office until I got back on my feet. And one of the things he needed was someone to write blog posts for his law firm. And he knew I
Great.
had a strong writing background. So he offered me the gig. And I was like, what? I can get paid to write? Seriously? Yeah, sign me up. So I jumped at that chance and started writing for him and then for an associate of his and then for some friends of mine. And it just kept growing from there. I did eventually get another day job, which again, just answering phones. It was a job. It was not a career. Kept writing on the side. And it was one of those where anytime anyone asked me, what do you do for a living? I'd be like, well, by day I answer phones, but I'm really a writer. And I would put much more emphasis on that than on the day job I didn't like or want to continue with. So through that, I was able to grow my writing career to the point where I could not handle that and the day job anymore. So I finally ditched the day job at I think it was end of 2014 that I quit that job and took this full time. And here I am.
Awesome. And even though it seems like maybe a fairly short time, there's actually been quite a bit that's been happening. I wonder if you could tell the audience what has been happening in terms of changes in the digital marketing space, because there are a lot of changes.
So many changes. I mean, to start with, this was back in, 2012, 2013, when I started writing blog posts for this client. At the time, I knew nothing about SEO. Really, it was just a matter of you put out content regularly. You don't worry about keywords or anything. You just tell the story, have a call to action at the end. And that's really all that we needed. And we did get results from that. They got a lot of really great clients from that. They multiplied the investment, their return on the investment that they put in by hiring me. So that is not the case anymore. I have had to get much more strategic about the content that I write for my clients, both in terms of learning SEO and the marketing strategy, and starting to apply not only the storytelling, but the psychology. Okay, where are they? What is this pain point? What is the solution they want? How can we make that solution irresistible to them? and get them to take that next step in the buyer journey. Also, what is that next step in the buyer journey? Is it actually hiring us, or is it signing up for our newsletter, registering for our upcoming webinar? What does it make sense to ask them to do at
Hmm.
this point? So, yeah, I mean, SEO alone has had a whole lot. I know you mentioned keyword stuffing in that lovely intro you made for me. That's a big one. If you could just put a keyword as many times as you could into your content. For those of you who are unaware, keyword stuffing is when you have a keyword and you put that keyword as many keyword times as you keyword can into your content. And
Hmm.
in the early days of SEO, that worked because Google was looking for keywords. And if people were searching something and that word was or phrase was in your content, then yeah, you would rank. But it was crappy content. I'm not sure it converted anyone. And Google eventually caught on and was like, yeah, no, we don't want to direct our users to this content. So now you can actually get downgraded or blacklisted by Google if you're enough of a bad actor. So that can have a negative effect on your SEO instead of
Sure.
boosting your SEO. So those are some of the I know there's a lot of changes that
Yeah.
have happened over the past 12 years, but those are the big ones.
And then in terms of topics and hot topics, I mean, to just bring one up, people are talking about the impact of AI, for example. Is it going to replace the marketers? Do we still need humans and what have you? But are there some hot topics that you would address and say this is what people should be thinking about currently?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's never going to completely replace humans. At the very least, you need humans to put in. I think I heard someone on some video talking about prompt engineers, which is like a fancy way of saying you ask questions, right? Figuring out what are the right questions or prompts that you can put into AI to get the content that you want out of it. And then you have to edit it. Never just take it at face value. We all saw that awful Google Bard commercial, right, where it gave a wrong answer, and no one at Google fact checked this before publishing the content into their ad. So at the very least, yes, you have to fact check it, make sure it's consistent with your brand, make sure there's some thought leadership. So that's my really big problem with using AI to create content, is that it's not positioning you as a thought leader in your industry. And at the end of the day, if you are not a thought leader, why should anyone hire you over one of your competitors? Because if you're just a commodity, they can get that anywhere.
Hmm.
Positioning yourself as the thought leader is really where the gold is, and that's kind of that second half of the content strategy, right? There's SEO, yes, there's showing up in searches, but now we have to actually convert those leads and build that audience. You want people to keep coming back for your information, and the only way to do that is to position yourself as a thought leader, as the go-to expert, so that when they have a question, when they are ready to buy, when they know
Hmm.
someone who has a question, you are going to be at the top of their mind because you have positioned yourself as that expert. So AI can't really do that. I was talking to another marketer who I think put it best when she was like, I mean, it's a fine first draft, which I think is correct. Yeah, you can use it, I think, to fill out the boring parts, the informational parts, but make sure you get that story in there. AI is really bad at writing stories. You need a story component to be compelling, to engage your audience, and again, take them to that next step in the buyer journey. So the story, the thought leadership, definitely the call to action all have to be human crafted or at least edited. So yeah, and the other problem is duplicate content. Google or AI doesn't really generate anything. It just scrapes existing content from elsewhere on the internet and repurposes it for you and goes, here you go, this is new content. It's not new. It's the same thing everyone else is saying, which again can hurt your SEO because Google prefers original content. May or may not get into copyright issues depending on how similar it is to how good it was at repurposing the content versus how much
Sure.
of it is just copying. And again, you're not positioning yourself as a thought leader if you're just saying the same things everyone else is saying. So yeah, I think it's great for that first draft, get the informational, the boring parts out of the way, but that thought leadership can only come from you.
Interesting. You could maybe elaborate something on that because that's a really interesting point. So, how you develop that thought leadership because you have a unique approach, and what would you recommend business owners to be thinking of sort of breaking through all of those algorithms and all the things that are done automatically online. Mhm.
Yeah, it's what is the perspective that you bring to this, new development, whether it's a new law or new technology? What is your perspective that only you can bring to it? What is something that people can only get from you? Because, like I said, the information, the how-tos, they can get those anywhere. But a lot of people also really want to know, like, okay, what does this mean? There's that so what factor, which a lot of marketers and business owners don't take into account because we're in the weeds so much that to us it's obvious why everyone should care. And the reality is most people, it's not that obvious to them because they're not in it all day, every day.
Okay.
So yeah, you have to explain it to them. So that is a really important point, is to make sure that you are explaining what does this mean for them? Why should they care? And then what can they do about it?
So it's really a matter of being much more unique than everybody else is doing because, as you suggest, AI is really just scraping and repurposing stuff and saying it's new, but it really isn't. It's just the same old stuff that everybody has access to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was reading a report not too long ago that 50% of the content that ChatGPT spits out is just wrong. It's not even like a little bit, it's just flat out wrong. So it's not that Google Bard was unique in that way. It's just that Google made the mistake of releasing that ad without double checking it. So always double check the work, whether you're using Bard or ChatGPT or something else.
It's because I've noticed that some of the AI tools now also have that caveat that it's saying things like, this may not be true, and this is possibly a hallucination. So they're starting to tell you that because people are becoming aware of it as well. Mhm. Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really hard to position yourself as an expert in your industry if you're publishing wrong information.
So it's almost like you really have to be authentic, which is a good thing. I mean, this is what we want in personal relationships anyway, and we don't want phoniness, but I think you're really arguing for the fact that you should be authentic and be yourself. And if you really have a good service, then you are going to come across as authentic and original.
Absolutely, yes.
When you think about if the so-called average business owner, could you tell us something about what your expertise actually is and perhaps even some actionable tips that business owners and leaders can be following?
Yeah, that's funny. It's funny that you start with like the average business owner, and I've met so many different business owners. I'm not sure if there is an average. They're also unique. One of the things that I come across most often, as far as one of the questions I hear most, is not knowing what to blog about. So, like I said, I got started writing blog posts for a law firm. Um, they had a very clear idea of what they wanted me to be writing about, so that wasn't an issue for them. But since then, a lot of my clients and prospects are like, yeah, I know I should be blogging, I just have no idea what to blog about. I have my way of searching for keywords and whatnot to make sure that we're filling in that content gap.
Mhm.
But if you don't have the SEO tools that I have, I would say, if nothing else, go to those frequently asked questions that you hear over and over and over again. Like,
Okay.
AI is something that I hear about over and over and over again. So
Sure.
I have 2 different blog posts on my website about AI writing tools because it's something that comes up every time I'm at a networking event or talking to a prospect or a client or on a podcast, right? So, what are those questions in your industry that you keep hearing over and over and over again? Because if people are asking you them in person, chances are good they or other people are asking those questions of Google or Bing or whatever. They're looking for those information, for answers to those questions online. So, provide the questions online. It also makes it super easy if you're in that sales conversation and you're, say, emailing or DMing a prospect back and forth and they have a question. rather than writing out the same answer that you've written out 100 times. If you can
Yeah.
just link to your blog post and say, oh yeah, that's a great question. I have a whole article over here explaining that. Here's the link. Again, positions you as a thought leader because you have all of this information sitting on your website, and it saves you time. You don't have to go through that all again. You just have to copy and paste that link. So that is one of my favorite one of my favorite uses that I think is also underutilized. I don't think a lot of people think about using blog posts in that way. They think about using it as, like you said in the intro, a magnet to draw prospects to you. And it absolutely can and does do that. But there are other uses, more active uses that you can use blogs for that are super beneficial throughout the process of, again, engaging and kind of reeling in those prospects. So that's a big one. Another one is stick to a calendar. So many people put up blog posts, like 3 or 4 blog posts, and then they run out of time. They get distracted. They don't see immediate results. They get bored and they start doing something else. And they go, blogging doesn't work, and they throw up their hands and move on to something else. It is not a get rich quick scheme. It is something that takes consistent effort over months, I'd say at least a year, before you really start seeing results from it. Because it takes a while to earn Google's trust. It takes a while, again, positioning you as a thought leader in your industry, right? That's not going to happen with one blog post. That happens with multiple blog posts and videos and podcasts and all these different things. So you really have to put in the work consistently. So come up with a schedule, no less than once a month. That's the other question I get a lot, is how frequently, preferably twice a month, definitely no less than once a month, and have a schedule that you can stick to and treat it just like you treat any other deadline for your business. This is something that has to get done every month, every other week, whatever that might be.
And it seems to fulfill, actually, which is so advantageous. It's real, it's human, it's authentic, and it's thought leadership. It's got all the components that you've really been describing in terms of the topics and in terms of the changes that you've seen. With all of this background and all the things that you offer, could you tell people how to get a hold of you? What would you recommend if they would like to work with you?
Yeah, my website is AV, as in my initials, Alison Ver Halen. So that is avwritingservices.com. And you can email me directly at info@avwritingservices.com. I'm also on LinkedIn quite a bit as Alison Ver Halen. I think I'm the only Alison Ver Halen on there. And I am the author of the book Content Marketing Made Easy, which you can find on Amazon. So yeah.
It's a lot. So I appreciate in a short amount of time of how you can clarify some of the changes and hot topics and also offer some really good suggestions for people. Alison, thank you so much for taking some time out. I really appreciate your expertise and your ability to share with us. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for all the insights.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
All right. So if you would like the kinds of things that you're hearing from Alison and others, I hope what you're doing is liking, subscribing, sharing, and positively reviewing the Doctor of Digital podcast, because that's how we can keep customers coming and keep the guests coming, the high quality people are having. So until next time, make sure you are also going to the sponsors of the program, Burning America, and also Ian Hunter on Track, both the publishers who have been very supportive of my efforts. Until next time, this is the Doctor of Digital signing off. Deus Volt.